Welcome to Lipstick Attitude, hosted by Dr. Elizabeth King, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, author, and motivational speaker, specializing in trauma and women's mental health, and Yvonne Haase, psychotherapist and coach specializing in relationships, couples, and women's issues. This show is your dose of inspiration, information, and laughter. In each episode, Dr. King and Yvonne bring you hacks, tips, and inspiring stories to help you live a successful life. So ladies, grab your lipstick. It's time to do this. The Lipstick Attitude podcast is powered by Suit Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation, a nonprofit movement to empower women and children from all walks of life to be resilient, self-confident, and purposeful leaders through education, mentorship, and community outreach. To learn more, visit sslwomen.org. Please note that this show is intended to empower and educate. It is not meant to be utilized as a substitute for individual therapy.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Good morning. How are you?
I am fabulous. I am so happy to be here after all the technical difficulties we've had this morning. I am thrilled to be here. Good morning, everyone.
I don't know what you're talking about. Technology was smooth,
It's just been one of those Monday mornings, but it's all good, everyone. My name is Dr. Elizabeth King, and my co-host is Yvonne Haase, and this is the Lipstick Attitude. We're here every single week offering you life hacks and tips on how to live a resilient life and how to be so successful and to have the best time as you're going through this thing that we call life. That's what we're here for.
Listen, you bought the ticket, time to take the ride, my friend.
Oh my gosh, we bought the ticket, I guess, at birth, and we've been taking the ride all along.
I don't know. Sometimes I think I should have opted for the first class ticket because I kind of feel like I got the bumpy coach ride recently. I don't know about anybody else.
Listen, we're all living through a pandemic, so we are all on that bumpy ride, right along with you, my friend, right along with you. But it is Monday morning, and we are recording this great episode. God knows when you're going to hear this, because by the time you get it, it is pre-recorded. But we are live right now as is. So don't judge us if you hear bumpy rides along the way, folks. You are our friends. Just remember that, because sometimes, did you know that my computer started to do a total reboot and update right before we got started? So that's just the story of my life today.
Of course. And then sometimes the dog barks or my kids drop something in another room. So it's all part of the fun. And I think most people out there who are working from home totally understand anyway.
Absolutely. Well, we're using that right now, that excuse that we're all working from home, but I think we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. So get used to it, folks.
Yep.
This is our new normal, so get used to it.
Exactly.
Today we have a very good topic, I think very important. I think all of our topics, are so appropriate, and so many folks are experiencing these types of things, especially right now. We're going to be talking about domestic violence, and we know that through the pandemic, the numbers have increased, and we really need to have a serious conversation on how to break the cycle of domestic violence. So stay tuned for that. If you or someone you love may be experiencing domestic violence, you really want to be here and listening to this show for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And October, by the way, I know is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it kind of takes a backseat to the medical one, but it is equally as important, I think, for so many women and some men out there to get some real information on exactly what is domestic violence and how can you break out of the cycle.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for that. If you know of anyone that would benefit from this show, make sure you share it with them. We are on all of your podcasting sites. So we're on Podbean, we're on iTunes, we are even now on YouTube, by the way, and on Facebook. You can actually watch us because it's video, as well as YouTube, and we're on Stitchers, we're on Spotify, and God knows what other software or websites have picked us up. So make sure that you're looking at all of your favorite mediums on how you get your podcast delivered, and make sure you're sharing. The name of the podcast is, of course, the Lipstick Attitude Podcast. So we hope that this one is of great benefit to you and to your loved ones. But before we do that, we always start with what's new and great in your world. So drum roll, you, Yvonne, go first.
So on Saturday, my little junior Girl Scout actually bridged over to her first official big girl troop, and she is now a cadet Girl Scout.
Congrats!
Yay, Courtney! And we're so excited because not only did they bridge over, but they also received their Bronze Award, which is the highest award a Girl Scout and a junior level can receive. And these are awards that are granted to girls who are out there doing community service. So these girls actually got together in a pandemic. And I also found out they were the only junior troop in their service unit who got the chance to complete their Bronze Award this year. So they pushed through and created 240 hygiene bags for a local homeless community.
Wow.
So they gathered the supplies, they enrolled restaurants to help them gather things, you know, all of this in the midst of a pandemic when so many people were, you know, reaching out for support. They managed to meet their goals. So they were awarded their Bronze Award. So I have to tell you, between bridging through a cadet and earning that award, I only cried a little yesterday.
Just a little bit.
Just a little. I was so grateful I had to wear sunglasses because it was an outdoor, socially distant event. But yeah, it just made my heart just swell. I couldn't believe how much, you know, they've grown from, they were daisies together and now they're going into cadets.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And she's still loving it, right? Courtney is still
Oh my God. Yeah, she absolutely loves it. She's super excited. So hopefully it stays that way, because if not, it's going to look weird when mommy goes to all the Girl Scout events and doesn't have a kid there, but that's okay. I'll figure that part out.
Congratulations, Courtney, and to your troop. I'm so proud of all you girls. Keep doing it. You know, that is so heartwarming, right? To see young ladies do this kind of work. It's like an extension of SSL, right? This is what we do, and we promote giving back and being philanthropic, and the girls are learning that from day one. So I'm so proud.
Yeah, me too.
Congratulations. Me too. You should be very proud, mommy.
I am a very proud mommy. It makes me, you know, not eat her when she's not acting like a Girl Scout.
Forget that. Yeah,
reminds me that she can be sweet. Lord help us all. All right, my friend. What's new and great in your world?
There went my drum roll. Okay, well, what's new and great in my world is I am super excited because we finally got all the gentlemen confirmed for our October 23rd Women Whiskey and Men in the Hot Seat event. It's a virtual fundraiser, and we are so excited. We have not revealed the names of the gentlemen yet, but that is coming. Probably by the time you actually hear this podcast, by the time we release it, it's probably going to be out. So this is kind of old news for you, but as of right now, this Monday morning, we have not released it yet. So I'm super excited. Stay tuned for that. But if you have not purchased your ticket, go to sslwomen.org and you will see the event is up, and we are selling tickets, and you're going to have such a blast. We're going to do a whiskey tasting sponsored by our distillery. I hope I can say it, Pendrin, is that the way you pronounce that?
That's the way I would pronounce it.
Yeah, Pendrin Distillery. And the cool thing is that the women that own the distillery are going to narrate the whole tasting. So, and they are in Wales, and they are going to do it from Wales. So exciting. And then after that, we are going to do the Men in the Hot Seat panel. And you, my young lady friend,
today I'm young. That's awesome.
I tell you that you're young all the time. Don't even go there. You're only 28. So come
whichever it is.
Whichever, something like that. 28, 29, 9, 25, pick the number.
About 17 mentally.
Mentally, well, these days, boo.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm about 5.
Exactly.
But no, you will be the moderator as always, because God knows that no one can take that position from you ever.
Because I'll quit.
You'll quit or kill someone. So
Pretty much. But I have to tell you, without revealing any of the guys' names, as I see them come through, I am very secretly and apparently not so secretly anymore, kind of sad that it's not in person.
That's what you said to me, because you want them there, right?
I want them there.
Yeah.
I do. And I'm sure they'll be great and we're going to have a really awesome time. But I would love to have these guys together in a room with an audience. Would be really awesome.
It would be awesome, but we're going to make the best of it. Everybody's pivoting to do new and great things. And guess what? We are resilient, right? So we're doing it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, if you have not purchased your ticket yet, go to sslwomen.org. It is limited space, believe it or not, because we need to be able to manage the technology for all the folks. So what we are recommending is that you have a girls' night and have a few of your friends, social distancing, of course, and being responsible. But have a watch party. Set it up on your TV and have a watch party. Have a couple of girls over and make this into a fun night of girls' night. And gentlemen are invited. So guys, you are not excluded from our events. We love men that support women. And so we hope to have all of you there and having a great time with us. So remember that, October 23rd, it's coming up, fast and furious. Women, whiskey, and men in the hot seat. Oh, and yes, we're going to have a raffle too. So stay tuned for that. We have a lot of amazing items coming in. And again, this is a fundraiser for us, guys. This is going to help us support Project Kids, which is our umbrella project that oversees the mentorship program and our toy drive, everything we did for COVID-19, everything is under Project Kids. If it's related to kids, it goes under Project Kids. So you are helping underprivileged kids by supporting this event and by supporting SSL. So hope to see you all there. How about that?
I'm sure we'll see them all there. How would they not come after that?
I know, right? I am so excited. And the gentlemen, we are hoping to be able to interview all of them on our podcast before the 23rd. We'll see how timing works in our favor. I'm hopeful, but if not, you'll get to see them and hear from them on that night. And the lineup is just tremendous. Very awesome to see these guys. They're leaders in our community. They're from all walks of life. And not just in Broward County where we're at, but they're coming from New York, they're coming from California, they are in Miami, they're in Fort Lauderdale. So thank God for Zoom in that sense, in that we're able to do this across state lines and everybody can be part of it. So you can also sign up no matter where you're at and where you live. So October 23rd, don't forget. All right, let's get to our topic of today, breaking the cycle of domestic violence. Yvonne, why don't you kick us off by just talking about what is domestic violence?
Yeah, so actually domestic violence has a really special place in my heart because when I was gaining my hours as an intern to finish schooling for my master's degree, I ended up doing my internship in the world of domestic violence and didn't think that I would like it. And I actually ended up staying there for a few years after my internship because I, just came to really love studying it. But domestic violence, just so everyone knows, is a form of abuse. And it's also known sometimes as intimate partner violence. So we are specifically talking about people here who have some level of an intimate relationship with each other. But it can include any member of a family. We can have older children who abuse their parents. This is also a form of domestic violence. Or another family member, like an uncle who abuses, their nephew or somebody. So there are different types of domestic violence, but the main factor is that these people know each other and have some level of an intimate relationship with them. So it's not strangers on the street. It's not an anger management issue. Domestic violence is very much listed as its own area of abuse. And it can show up in different types of ways. So number one, obviously we have physical violence, and that is what most people are looking for. There are bruises, there are broken bones, there are cut marks. So those are the most obvious to people, although you can have physical violence without showing any marks. If you do, hitting someone on the back of the head doesn't necessarily leave a mark. Hitting someone in the stomach with things will oftentimes cause internal damage, but no external marking. So, but those are forms of physical. One that people don't necessarily, equate is emotional abuse. And this is name calling, put downs, humiliating people, controlling them with family and friends, controlling how someone dresses, with the sole intent behind emotional abuse is to isolate a person by reducing their self-esteem. So these are the top two areas, but some of the other areas also include things like economic abuse. We have partners out there who are controlling the money. And I'm not talking about you have one person who really likes to save in a relationship and the other person who really likes to spend. This is someone who has no access to the money, regardless of the fact that he or she is earning a substantial income. They can have no access to it. Okay. Then there's sexual violence. There are still, it is the year 2020, and I'm sure you come across this too, Dr. King, that people don't think that you can rape your partner. If they're married to you or you've been in a long-term relationship, they don't consider that rape. It is rape. 1,000% it is rape. It doesn't matter if you are married or been together for 25 years. I don't care. Okay, so, and sexual violence includes an assault, but also includes like forcing your partner to dress in a certain way that is provocative, or requiring them to engage in certain acts, or cheating on them and telling them that it is their fault because maybe they're not having sex with you at this time.
With the sexual violence one, I just recently had a couple that they drank to the point that the wife passed out, and the husband apparently abused her in the sense that she woke up and she was bruised all over the place in her groin area, her legs, and she doesn't remember any of that. And the husband, when they came in to speak with me, he said, well, she's my wife. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. And I said, that's not the case. And she actually was going to file charges against him. So this is pretty serious, folks. Mm-hmm. You can't just, do that just because you're married. They will actually arrest you for having sex with someone that has not consented to having sex. Yeah. I think in the old days, I think women were not protected that way, but now they certainly are protected that way. So if someone has been drinking too much where they are not able to consent, then I suggest that you walk away and mm-hmm. not try that, because you can end up in jail.
Yeah, and there are definitely cultural differences on that one as well, along with physical abuse. But if you are coming over and currently residing in this country, you definitely want to know the laws, because I understand that in other cultures it's acceptable to the culture, but it is certainly not acceptable here.
That's right.
And so another form of domestic violence, by the way, is stalking. And this is where you're intentionally creating fear or concern for the safety of someone. So that includes following them, sending tons of messages. I had a young woman who, the guy she was seeing literally took a knife and left her a note through the hood of her car. I didn't even know you could put a knife through the hood of your car, and pinned it to the hood of her car, the roof of her car. Wow. So, yep. So these are forms of stalking. If someone has asked you to stop contacting them and has blocked you on whatever platforms they block you on, and you set up accounts to go around that block, you are stalking that person.
And there are consequences for that if they wanted to pursue legal action. So again, you know, you need to make sure that you think of this as a serious threat to someone, and they can come after you.
Absolutely.
Yvonne, you want to share some of the stats that we see on domestic violence? So I think a lot of people don't know how big this problem is.
Well, let me start by saying, before I get into those stats, that domestic violence is one of those areas that knows no boundaries. It's not based on income level. It's not based on education level. It is not based on culture. It is one of those things that transcends any of those different categories, where we might, you know, break things down by ethnicities or economic groups or things like that. Domestic violence has no limit. So on average, more than 1 in 3 women in the US will experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by their partner.
Wow.
1 in 3. So you're standing there and you're one of, in a small group of your friends, one of you has probably experienced a level of domestic violence. Right?
That's pretty astonishing, huh?
And another reason to really inform your high schoolers is that 1 in 10 high school students has experienced physical violence from a partner.
Which is so crazy. You know, when I worked for the school system, I worked at an alternative school, and there was a young lady there, a beautiful young woman, Latino. She was dating this Caucasian guy, and he was beating her up. He was beating her up physically. Almost every week she would get a beating. And you know, that was the first time that I understood that domestic violence happened even in high school. It was a rude awakening for me, for sure. But it does happen. And after I saw that, I started to do more investigative work, and it was very common that this was going on. And not because she was in an alternative school. She was, honestly, she was there not because of behavior. She was there because she had been ill prior to that and had lost some of her credits and went there to catch up to be able to graduate. It wasn't a behavioral problem, and her boyfriend wasn't a behavioral problem either. They were like, if you saw them, you would think that they were like Barbie and Ken. Adorable, both of them, yet he was abusing her every week, single week, and we had to really work hard to get her to move away from that relationship. Of course, we investigated further and found out that she came from a household where her mother was being abused as well.
Oh, yes.
And so that
hence the need to break the cycle.
Exactly. So yes, that is something that just mind boggles me to this day, that high schoolers are living through domestic violence at that young age. So let's talk a little bit about the signs if you are being abused, or someone that you know is being abused, if you're a victim of domestic violence. If you are a friend and you're seeing unexplained cuts and bruises, you need to be really paying attention to that. If you see that your friend all of a sudden is avoiding social gatherings, avoiding family and favorite activities, again, you need to be cautiously aware of what's going on. Of course, you can't go and accuse anybody. So this is a full picture. You have to see all these things to know that there is a problem, right?
Right.
If you're making excuses, if your friend is making excuses for their partner's behavior all the time, that may be a sign. Also looking uncomfortable or fearful around their partner. Of course, you know, if that's happening, and I don't know in your practice, Yvonne, if sometimes your patients come in and share this with you, where they feel uncomfortable around their partner, but yet they cannot say that they're being physically abused or that
Yeah.
they're emotionally abused.
Absolutely.
So it could be just that they're saying it, but they're not really putting two and two together.
Mm-hmm.
Overly worried about pleasing their partner, like making sure that they're, everything is right on point. Like I had a patient that told me that she had to have dinner at the table by 6:00 p.m. or else. It was an
Yeah.
or else. Or she needed to hang up her husband's clothes exactly the way he liked them, or else he was not going to be happy. In that control factor, that mental control, that emotional control is domestic violence, as we stated before. How about, having someone checking up on them? Are they at work or are they at school? Being followed,
Mm-hmm.
where the person feels so much pressure. If you see a friend that complains to you, oh, my husband shows up wherever I'm at, or is constantly checking my phone, you need to be concerned for them. Of course, if your friend tells you, or if this is happening to you, to perform sexual pleasures, sexual things against their will,
Mm-hmm.
that is also, an indicator that there may be domestic violence. And of course, if your friend is threatening to hurt themselves, and you see some of the other things that I just spoke about, maybe that may indicate that there is domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and then there are some other signs that will allow you to know if you are in a domestic violence relationship. So one of them that people don't realize is that a partner will blame you for the abuse, right? So you get backed into a corner and you've been beaten up, and then you reach out and scratch them to get away from them, and they're blaming you for the abuse. I only had to restrain you because you were scratching me. Someone who tells you what to wear, demands what you wear. I've had guys in the group who would demand that their partners wear a certain kind of underwear, or, and who sees their underwear, besides them. So there are also when they threaten to kill you, is obvious. If I can't love you, nobody will. Or threaten to kill someone around you. Unfortunately, in this world, we see a lot of threats to children who are in the relationship. We also see a lot of threats to pets, which is why in Broward County, they started Project Sheriff Debbie. They will actually go get your pet, because people will leave because there are shelters for their children, but not for their pets. Okay. If your partner throws things, punches holes in walls, and especially then says to you, at least I didn't hit you. Okay. Yells at you, makes you feel really small. Sometimes when these couples come in for counseling and she feels safe and she starts unloading emotionally, she seems hysterical. And he sits back and says, see, Yvonne, this is what it's like when I try and talk to her. She's always acting crazy like this. Okay. It's a way of making her feel small, and also blaming you for having an affair, because that gives somebody a reason to abuse you in their mind. You cheated on me. You hurt me worse than anybody can.
Yeah. The one that stands out for me, the one that you said about saying that you were to blame for the abuse, I think that's so often so true, right? Even the couple that I shared the story that she blacked out, he actually said, but you're the one that drank too much. And she woke up with bruises everywhere. So it was her fault that she drank too much. Yeah, she shouldn't have drank so much, but that did not give him an excuse. And, this happens in a lot of areas where you blame the victim for the abuse. It's just crazy. And when you said the yelling and making you feel small, how oftentimes do we hear women say, he called me names, he called me all kinds of ugly names, and excuse me, and it made me feel like I was no one, I was nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed in the relationship because I felt like I couldn't get out of it, because the abuser knows that that's a form of controlling. Of course, also controlling their money. If someone is controlling your money, like how you spend your money, and I'm not talking about like as a couple, you make decisions on how to save your money. And if you're a big time spender, maybe there needs to be a conversation about that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where you don't have access to money, that you make your paycheck and you have to turn it over to someone, and they have full control over the money. Also, tells you what job you should work,
If you can have a job.
if you can have a job. So oftentimes I hear women say, I can't go out and work because my husband or my partner says that I need to stay at home because he's very jealous and he doesn't want me to have a male boss because he's afraid that I'm going to cheat on him. I hear that a lot. And so the woman stays at home and doesn't do anything. They sometimes don't even have access to money just to even go and buy the basics. Like you have to ask permission. Can I have $20 so I can go to the grocery store and buy blah, 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 blah? Or can I have money to go to the grocery store? So if this is happening to you and someone is controlling your money and you're spending to the point that it feels uncomfortable, that is a form of domestic violence.
Absolutely. And another way that there's control in a relationship is isolation. And isolation is huge. In extreme cases, I have seen people who have been forced to sit in a room and somebody spreads like flour or borax powder around them so that they can see the footprints and they're allowed to go to the bathroom and back. That's obviously a very extreme case, but don't think that that doesn't happen, and don't think it only happens in certain neighborhoods. It happens everywhere. So, but if your partner is, making you ask permission to see family and friends, or, create scenarios between your family and friends that makes everybody so uncomfortable that you start withdrawing from interacting in those relationships, this is a sign of domestic violence. If he or she is embarrassing you in front of other people, or you've shared something intimately with them and they decide to share it with this group of people, with the whole point to humiliate you, these are signs of isolation. And isolation is a huge part of domestic violence, because if I can't get to people, how can I tell somebody something's wrong? You can't.
Yeah, you can't. Going back to the physical abuse piece, we all understand that if you're being punched or pushed or kicked or bit, that's physical abuse. There's also different kinds of physical abuse. There's physical abuse that maybe your perpetrator doesn't allow you to go to sleep, keeps you up all night, or doesn't allow you to get medication or eat. I had a case where the husband would actually do what you talked about, put the borax all around her seat and leave her in the middle of the room, and she was not allowed to go eat or to the bathroom or anything else. She had to stay there. That was emotional and physical abuse, because she couldn't go to the bathroom, she couldn't get food, she couldn't take a nap. So in the emotional, imagine having someone hold a gun to your head and say, if you move, what could happen.
Right.
She never thought that he was going to, but she wasn't going to test it.
Yeah, that's not what I'm going to call somebody's bluff on, I'm sure.
Exactly. So you can be attacked with weapons, but it also could be borderline emotional, like the incident, the situation that I just shared with you, or it could be, actually punching you out. So, yeah.
Yeah. And another category under physical is, we can move into sexual abuse, which we've touched on a little bit before. And please remember that this happens in marriages and long-term intimate relationships. But if a partner, you like that? If a partner,
Hey, you're sounding like me today.
I'm Spanish today.
That's it.
If a partner forces you into having sex or makes you feel guilty for not wanting to have sex that evening, or even withholding sex from you as a form of punishment, these are forms of sexual abuse. I have had clients who were given STDs on purpose by their perpetrator. I have had ones who become pregnant not wanting to be because their partners refuse to use any kind of birth control or allow them to use birth control. These are different forms of sexual abuse, and they absolutely are a huge part of domestic violence.
I want to talk a little bit about the common emotions and behaviors of the victim of domestic violence, because I think it's so important that you recognize this if you're doing it, if it's you or if someone you love is doing this. So first of all, there's a big belief that you're responsible for the abuse. So you keep making excuses. Well, maybe if I had his dinner on the table, or, if I had not been so loud, maybe he wouldn't have hit me. Or maybe I provoked it because I was wearing a skimpy dress and he got jealous. He really just loved me. Sometimes, the victim also feels like they deserve it, that they deserve the abuse. Again, it's like, you know what? I should know better. I shouldn't have known better. I shouldn't have done what I did. He told me not to do that. So he hit me because apparently I, crossed the line. So you're making that excuse as you feel like you deserve it. Do you want to share a couple in there too? I'm sure you have some in there.
Victims are often unable to relax. They're always on high alert. They show up in session as having a generalized anxiety disorder when the reality is that their auto response system is so high from having to walk around on eggshells all the time that they appear in like a constant state of anxiety. Or they have panic attacks based on the fear. If they don't know, their partner says something to them like, well, when I get home, we'll handle this. Victims are experiencing an intense panic attack or anxiety attack in that moment.
How about the sense of hopelessness or helplessness? That you can't even escape your perpetrator. You can't get out of the situation. You don't know how. So that the emotion is so overwhelming that you feel hopeless, and this is it. This is the way my life is going to be forever. And so they don't get out because they get paralyzed by the fear.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And the fear of not being able to protect your children. Yes. I've had many cases where the perpetrator of the abuse has shown up at the kids' school, taken the school and left the country, taken the kids from school and left the country.
Yeah.
So if you have this sense that you can't protect your children, a lot of people will stay because it's easier to stay where I can at least see what's happening than the fear of if I leave, what could possibly happen.
And by the way, like we started to say at the beginning of the show, domestic violence is not just towards your partner, it could be towards your children. So domestic violence could be maybe someone is abusing the child, and let's say the wife stays back and doesn't do anything because she's afraid. I've had several cases, many cases actually, where the child was either sexually abused or physically abused, and the mother stays behind because she's being physically abused and she's afraid. So it doesn't just end with the partner. It can, flow over to your children as well. And that sense of helplessness and hopelessness makes you feel paralyzed and not knowing what to do. And
yeah,
a lot of times women stay in the relationship because of that fear. So let's talk about what you can do if you are a victim. What can you do? Because we're about bringing new solutions. The first thing I want to say is just know that you don't have to live this way. you
Yeah.
deserve better than that.
You absolutely deserve better than that. And this is not your fault. Because you are in a relationship where there is domestic violence is not your fault. You did not bring on the abuse. If he or she says to you, I was never like this in any other relationship, chances are that is a lie.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you are in the state of an emergency, please call 911. Please call 911. The police will come. But if they come and you say to them, no, I think he'll calm down, they may not take him. So if you call the police, you need to make sure that you are going to allow them to do their job. And if that means you also have somebody there with you to help you stand in a secure place to do that, call that person if you can, right? But there are websites too. And what's always interesting, if you go to like Women in Distress and the National Domestic Violence Hotline website, there is a button that if you're on that website and your partner walks in, if you click it, it will completely delete from all of your history. It's like you weren't even there. So no one can go behind you and say, oh, why are you on this website? So there are definitely websites and local resources that are available to help you and to get you out of the current situation and provide you with some shelter until you can, kind of get back on your own feet. And they will also provide you a victim advocate so that you have someone to be with you if you go to court to file restraining orders and or obtain a divorce from that person.
Also, I just want to piggyback on what you just said, the 911 and then calling the hotline, but also in your local community, check to make sure there might be an organization that focuses on domestic violence. Like here in Broward County, we have Women in Distress. Make sure you reach out to them as your local community organization. Look and find out where you can find a safe place. And there are safe places for you to go if you need to go. So just make sure that you are informed and that you contact, a local community resource guide. Like, for example, we have 211 in Broward County, which will also give you some other helpful hints on what to do. Just find what is available to you in your community.
Absolutely. And when victims come to session, we develop a safety plan with them, right? So in this safety plan, they must tell somebody else other than us what is happening to them. So if they go to work and they can say to somebody at work, if I don't show up to work tomorrow or for the next 2 days, or I call you with the code word something, it's raining outside, whatever the code is, I need help in that moment, call 911 and send them to my house, right? So having someone that you trust as that source is key to a safety plan as well. And then doing some things like have an extra set of your car keys hidden, because batterers will take your keys so that you cannot leave. So always have a second set hidden. Have an extra bag packed and do not leave it in your car. Leave it at someone else's house. Because if they see a bag that's packed in your car, they're going to know you're making a plan to leave.
And that can make matters worse right there and then. So
yeah,
you want to be safe. Absolutely.
You want to be, and if you can get access to a credit card in your own name or a bank account in your own name, even if you have to go to a separate bank to do this, then set up some stream of income if that is possible.
Yeah, so let's move on to if you are the friend of the victim and you want to help out. Of course, 911 is your first phone call if someone is being abused at that moment and you want to, help them out. But besides the 911, be on the lookout for signs of abuse and have a conversation with your friend and say, listen, I've noticed this, and that. Sometimes your friend may not come to you, and so you may have to go to them. And I know that a lot of times we want to turn the blind eye and just pretend like it's not happening because you don't want to get involved in people's lives. But if you're a good friend, you need to have the conversation with that person. And yes, they may be upset at you for bringing it up, but they could also be very relieved for you noticing and opening up the door so that they can confide in you and ask for help. Listen, you may save someone's life. Imagine if someone ends up getting killed or really hurt, and you knew that this was going on, how you will feel. Not that it's your responsibility, but it is your responsibility to at least attempt to help.
You know, you can even take a stand for people that you don't know. I have to tell you, I was in a mall parking lot once and I saw a man yelling at his partner and making her get back into the car and taking the keys and making her sit in the car with the windows up while he went shopping in the mall. And it's like July. And he did not see me because I had put up my sunshade and I was about to get out of the car when I saw it, and I called 911 when he walked away from the car.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was not happening on my watch.
And here's one that I want to stress. Please be patient and do not judge. Don't judge your friend or your family member for staying in the relationship. This is not about, your opinion or what you think they should do. Domestic violence is very complicated. Reasons that people stay in the relationship is very complicated. Hence why there needs to be a therapist involved, because obviously there's lack of self-esteem, there's codependency, there's, maybe some addiction. I mean, there's so many reasons that domestic violence happens. And so don't be the one to be judging and being holier than thou, because like we stated before, it goes across all socioeconomic lines, cultural lines, racial lines. This can happen to anybody at any point in time. Yeah. So and make sure, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, and that includes saying things to them like, how can you love him?
Yes.
That's a huge judgment, and you will actually push her closer to him than pull her away.
Exactly. So make sure that you're there to help and support. And if you can't do that, then don't say anything at all. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. Making it worse, making them feel like it's their fault is not helpful, because that just adds to them feeling less than and like it's their fault.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I hope, and more importantly, I just think that the message here, as always, before we get off the line, is that you don't deserve to be mistreated, and you deserve to live a happy life. And so reach out for help. That's really the moral of this story. Reach out for help, because you deserve to live a happy life.
Absolutely.
And, look for therapy, call 911, call the hotline, whatever it takes. Reach out to friends and family, but don't allow someone to abuse you or your family. All right.
All right. Awesome. Well, that was a great show, in my most humble opinion.
I think it was an awesome show. I think the message hopefully is loud and clear. And I hope that all of our listeners are really tuning into what we're saying here, that, everything that we do, Yvonne, is to empower people, and, but you have to make the decision that you are worth it to go forward and fight for your happiness. And we're here to help and support you, and hopefully, that you don't have to do life alone. That's what this is all about.
Exactly. All right, ladies. So let's do it. Let's put on our lipstick attitude. Lipstick is our war paint, and it's what we put on to get out there and face the world, no matter how interesting that world gets. It is definitely our resiliency and our strength and our courage, and life right now, I think, is throwing all of us for a bit of a loop, but putting on our lipstick helps us not just be a survivor, it helps us be a thriver. So let's do it, ladies.
Amen to that. I already put mine on.
You cheated.
Well, you were talking.
I'm always talking, that's my problem.
It's awesome. Thank you, everyone. We
Thank you,
appreciate you
everyone.
listening in, tuning in. Make sure you're sharing this, sslwomen.org. That's where all this information is at. And make sure you're tuning in to all of our podcast episodes. They're all chock full of information and inspirational stories. So see you next
Absolutely.
time. Bye.
Have a sassy day.
Have a sassy day, everyone. Bye.